All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Saturday. I hope everyone is doing well, well, well. I see mobile music is in the room. Hello. And it's so good to be back in the music room. I want to welcome everyone to Live in the Music Room. I missed you last week, but I hope that you watched the video replay. We talked about the ledger lines below the treble clef staff. So that's a great video to watch if you haven't watched it already. Yes, and so I'm excited. I want to first make sure my audio is okay. Of course, every time I do this, there is some type of trouble issue, tech issue. So it's becoming sort of the norm for me, but I am determined to figure this all out. So if you can hear me, you can give me a thumbs up and let me know that the audio is okay. You can see me and all of that wonderful stuff. Okay. I want to welcome everyone again to Live in the Music Room, and I want to welcome for those who are watching on the replay. We get a lot of people watching the replay, so thank you in advance for watching the replay. I hope these video lessons are helpful. Okay, and if you don't know who I am Miss Christine. Let me see, where's my little items here that I have, all my little stuff here. Okay, Miss Christine here. You'll be meeting some other wonderful music instructors as we build our Live in the Music Room. But I'm excited to be here. And it looks like the sound is okay. So that's exciting to hear. Thank you. Thank you so much. I see a couple of people in the classroom. So let me shout out 2 for 1 and mobile music. And yes, if I haven't mentioned, please subscribe, like, do everything that everyone on YouTube tends to ask you to do. But we really mean it. We really would love for you to like and subscribe. We're trying to grow, and we put a lot of effort in what we do for it to bring to you every Saturday, as often as we possibly can. So I hope everyone is having a great time. It is still very cold here in New York, and I'm just eager for some warm weather. I don't know if you love the cold weather, that's great, but it is really killing my joints. But I know spring is coming. So without further ado, we have such an exciting lesson for you. Let's talk about our lesson today. Okay, here we go. What are we going to talk about today? Well, we are all the way up to lesson 6, so we are moving along. And today we're talking about the bass clef and the ledger lines above the bass clef staff. Okay, so we are talking about those notes that exceed the 5 lines and 4 spaces that we call the musical staff. But we're dealing with the bass clef, and we call those lines ledger lines. That's what we're going to be talking about, understanding ledger lines. And then we're going to be reading those notes, okay? So you're going to understand it, and then you're going to read those notes. Next, we're going to have, as always, a musical game. You know how I love to play a musical game and test your knowledge. Make sure you're paying attention. And of course, this week's assignment, all the resources are free at our music school. So there is where you will find the resources to download the workbook, the quiz, and I should mention that I give you a video answer key. Okay, so if you're stuck on, say, question number 4, but you figured out all the other questions, you can watch that video and figure out what question number 4 is. So that's a great resource, a great value for you. Are we ready to learn? Let me see you put in the chat, ready to learn. If you are ready to learn, let me hear you say, I am ready to learn. Okay. All right, I'm waiting. Ready to learn. Okay, you can put it in the chat. If you are ready to learn, let's do it. Okay, ready to learn. So today we're going to talk about the bass clef ledger lines above the staff. Let's do it. Today's lesson is about the ledger of the bass. If you joined me in the last lessons, you already learned what a musical staff is, 5 lines and 4 spaces, which was lesson 1. How to draw a treble clef and a bass clef staff, also in lesson 1. To create the grand staff, you join the 2 staffs together by a brace, and you also learned in order for notes to have meaning, you must place notes on a staff with a clef. We follow the first 7 letters of the alphabet, and you know how to name notes on the treble clef staff as well as how to name notes on the bass clef staff. You've learned about ledger lines above the treble clef staff as well as below the treble clef staff. But today, we're going to learn about ledger lines above the bass clef staff. So let's take it one step at a time. You already know that notes live on the staff, either on a line or a space, like this. But music doesn't stop there, right? When notes go above the bass clef staff, we add what? A small extra line called a ledger line. You remember. Ledger lines are short little lines we draw to help us read notes that are higher than the staff. Remember in last week's lesson? Ledger lines are not long like the staff lines. They're short and they only appear where the note is. Let's begin with the highest line note we already know on the bass clef staff. So let's look. What is the name of this note here on the 5th line in the bass clef? You should remember. Good. This is note A. Let's put it here. A. Wonderful. Because we already learned the line notes on the bass clef staff, let's do a quick review. You already know this is a line note. This is line A. This is a line note, and it's on the 4th line, splitting the 2 dots. If we know that this is a bass clef and it's also called the F clef, you will know that that was the F line. So this note is F. And then we have the 3rd line. We're only dealing with the line notes right now. This is note D. And here we have the 2nd line, which is note what? Good, B. And then here we have, hopefully you can see this, the 1st line, which is note good, G. All right, excellent. Now, before I go on, I want to make mention that we talked a couple of lessons ago about a phrase that you can use, like good boys do fine always for GBDFA, or good burritos don't fall apart. You can come up with anything that will help you. These are just very helpful suggestions that will help you learn the line notes in the bass clef more efficiently and faster, okay? All right, great. Now let's go higher. Since A is the highest note in the bass clef that we've talked about so far in our lessons, right? But now this is about the ledger lines and those small, short lines that I talked about earlier. Now you're going to see how it all works, okay? So A is a line note. The next note would have to be what? Good, a space note. And you know your musical alphabet, so what letter comes after A? Exactly, B. Okay? And so we're going to continue going on, but now we're at the top of the fifth line. We have a space note, and we know the next note has to be some type of line note. So now I'm going to add my short, small line called a ledger line, extending the staff upward, and I'm going to now add a note head to make my note a line note. And since we know this is a line note and this is note A, this is a space note, this is note B, then the letter name of this note would have to be good, C. Now, I want to make certain that everyone understands that there is a pattern. Notes don't just follow the musical alphabet. They also alternate from line to space, or line note to space note, line note to space note, okay? So it's very, very important that we understand that we're following our musical alphabet as well as alternating from a line note to a space note to a line note. All right, let's learn some more. All right, so let's continue going up the bass clef using those ledger lines that we just talked about. Now I'm going to erase these lower notes just so that we have a nice clean staff, just dealing with the ledger lines, the notes above the bass clef staff. Okay? All right. Now, let's continue. Now, this is note C. And before we go any further, this note C is very important. And some of you watching, I know you know already that we call this middle C. Middle C sits in the middle of the treble clef staff, right? So it's right in the middle of the treble clef staff as well as the bass clef staff. So that's why middle C is important. So let's continue going up the staff. So we have a line note, which is note A. We have a space note, which is note B. We have a line note, which is note C, middle C to be clear. And so the next note would have to be what? That is correct. It would have to be a space note. A space note. So I'm going to draw my line, my ledger line that was already here with middle C. I'm going to draw that here, and now I'm going to put my note head right on top of that line to create a space note, which is now note D. Good. And we're going to continue going up. So this is a line note, this is a space note, this is a line note, this is a space note. We have note A, note B, note C, and note D. And so the next note, we should know that it's going to be a line note, and it will be note E. Okay, excellent job. So here we're going to draw our ledger line that we added here for middle C, and then we have it here for D with our space note sitting on top. But now we have to add another ledger line, okay? So I'm going to just add a second ledger line here, which is actually the first ledger line that I have here for middle C, and the ledger line here for note D. That is this line, and then this is this ledger line, and now I'm adding my second ledger line to create my note E. And this is now note E. And we'll stop there for this lesson. But of course, notes can just continue going on and on. At some point, you're really going to change clefs. So you can see we're practically going into the treble clef staff. But it's important that we talk more about the ledger lines dealing with the bass clef staff. All right. So now you can see the pattern even above the bass clef staff, right? Nothing changes. We still use the musical alphabet, as you can see, and we are still moving step by step, alternating from a line note to a space note to a line note to a space note and to a line note. So ledger lines simply let us keep reading notes when the music goes higher. So there you have it. In this lesson, you learned that notes don't just stop at the top of the bass clef, that fifth line, note A. When notes go above the staff, we use what? That's right, ledger lines. Ledger lines are those short extra lines that help us read higher notes. And we can name those notes by continuing the musical alphabet upward. Nice work. All right, nice work. Now, if you feel confident with everything in this lesson, you know you can download the workbook at our school store, okay, as well as the quiz. Inside, you'll find guided practice pages that go along with everything that we learned in today's lesson. As I mentioned, the quiz, so if you feel a little challenged, you feel like being challenged, go ahead and download the quiz as well. And so that is all for today, and I'll see you in the next lesson. All right, good job. Okay, so now it's time to see how well you know your bass clef ledger lines above the staff, okay? So we're going to have a little fun. Let's go here to our whiteboard. All right, so we talked about ledger lines in this lesson. So the question is, this is a review. What is the name of this note here on the fifth line of the bass clef? What is the name of this note? And I'm going to give you a few seconds. All right, here we go. What is the name of this note? It's on the fifth line. All right. Got some exciting music for you. Okay, I see some answers coming in. You have 5 seconds. All right, your answer should have been A. I'm going to put it right here at the top. All right, next question. What is the name of this note? It's sitting on top of the fifth line, and it is a space note. You should know that note A is a what? A line note. You see the line going through the note. That is note A. What is the name of this note? And go. Can't hear the music. Yeah, we're going to work on that. All right. I can hear the music in my headphones, but you all cannot hear it. My apology. We'll work that out. All right. You have 7, 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3, 2, 1. Okay. This note is note B. B, B. Okay. All right. I might need a new marker. Let's see here. All right. What is the name of this note here? It is a line note, and it is a ledger line. You see the ledger line here, right? This is the ledger line that we talked about in today's lesson, that short extra line to extend the bass clef staff upward. And it sits in between the middle of the treble clef staff as well as the bass clef staff. I'm going to ask for 2 answers, not just the letter, but there's something special about this note. All right, and go. Okay. What is the name of that note? Okay, what is the name of that note? I'm going to see if I can get another marker here. Okay, this is note B. What is the name of this note? You have, oh, you're out of time. Okay, good. It is note C, but I needed a little bit more. We talked about why this note C is important. It is very important. Do you remember? Because it is what? Middle C. Okay, middle C. It sits between the two staves. Middle C. Of course, you're looking here at my grand staff. Middle C sits right in the middle of the grand staff, the treble clef, and the bass clef staff. That's middle C. Good, good, good. Okay. Now, what is the name of this note here? This is a space note. It is sitting on top of the ledger line here. And you should know your musical alphabet. We have note A here, which is a line note. Note B, which is a space note sitting right on top of the fifth line. We have our ledger line extending the bass clef staff, which is middle C. That sits between the treble clef staff and the bass clef staff. And so now what would this note be? This is a space note. Okay, it's not D. Okay, I'll give you a few minutes. Oh, yes, it is D. I thought I was saying B, but I was saying D. I am sorry, it's a long morning. Okay, the answers are coming in. I'm saying D and thinking B. It is note D, D, D. For a second there, I was seeing B, and I said, no, it's not. But anyway, you have to have sometimes you got to laugh at yourself. Yes, it is D, 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 D for dog. Okay. Now, what is this note here? This is a line note. We have two ledger lines, okay? And you have A, B, C, D, and so you kind of already know if you know your musical alphabet, and it is a line note. So what is the name of that note? All right, I probably don't even need to give you 30 seconds, but let's have some more fun. Here we go. I know you can't hear the music, and we have such pumping music, pumping music. Good, good, good. Yes, E. Okay, and we can obviously continue going up, but our lesson stopped at note E. Now let's have some more fun here. Let me take the timer off. Since you know this is note A, you should be able to tell me what this note is. Okay, now we're on the musical staff, okay? This is going back to some of our previous lessons. Okay, some of our previous lessons. What is this note here? It's a space note. Space note. Give you a few more seconds. Yes, good. It is G, G, G. Okay, now let's see here. I have all kind of fun things for us to do. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I think it's worth reiterating. Okay, so now we're going to show you a printed version of the bass clef staff and some notes, okay? And you can see here that I have reference G, B, D, F, A. That is for your line notes. And then I have A, C, E, G for your space notes. And of course, you have these different sentences that you can remember. All cows eat grass for your space notes. Good boys do fine always. Or the lesson reminded us, good burritos don't fall apart for your G, B, D, F, A. You can make your own sentences, whatever helps you. Okay, you can remember your musical alphabet as well as helpful sentences to help you. Whatever will help you learn these lines and spaces of the bass clef staff on and even above. But the truth of the matter is, it's like repetition. You know, the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. Okay, it's a skill. Okay, so let's see. Now I'm not drawing any notes. You're looking at the note in a printed format. Okay, so what would this note be here that's sitting, and we talked about this, right on the right above the fifth line, right above the fifth line. And this is our bass clef. Let's see what you think. So we have a hint here. Is it a line note? Is it a space note? Okay, you should know that this is a line, a space note. This is a space note, and it's sitting right above the fifth line. So what would this note be? Sitting right above the fifth line. So if here's our space notes, A, C, E, G. And then the next is A. This is the A line. So this has to be what? Note B. Okay. All right. Now we're on another space note. It's on the third space. What would this letter name be? Okay. What would this be? Okay. It's E. E. You can see right here, it's on the third space. Here's A. A is on the first space, if you can see my mouse. So we have A, C, E. This note is E. Okay. All right. Now this is on the fifth line, and you have some references here. So it's a line note. Look at your line notes. You have G, B, D, F, A. So what would this note be? It's sitting on the fifth line. That is correct. It would have to be A. Okay. All right. Here's another note. I'll give you a few seconds because I might be going a little fast. It's been a long morning. Okay. So there you go. We have a space note. So the key is to think, is it a space note or a line note? Once you're able to identify, oh, I'm looking at a space note, then you start to think, okay, what do I have to remember? Yes, this is A. I see your answers coming in. This is note A. Once you're able to establish the line note from a space note, oh boy, now we have a ledger line, okay? So this is something you can do. Don't get too nervous about it. We had this in our lesson. So you already know that we talked about middle C, which you'll probably eventually see as a question. So now what would this note be? What note comes after C? Okay, give you a few seconds. And don't say B. Okay, what note comes after C? You should know that is note D. Okay, good, good, good. All right. I'm looking at the chat and some of those D's almost looks like a B, but I got to make it a little bit bigger so I can see your answers. All right. Certainly don't want to confuse you. All righty. And that's why this is live, because you get a chance to answer or ask your questions and get your questions answered. And if you're watching the replay, you can put your questions in the chat and I'll be happy to answer those questions for you if you need further clarification. Okay, so now let's look here. This is on the fourth line. This is lesson number 3 that we talked about. This note splits the 2 dots here. And if you remember the second name that we call the bass clef, this will let you know that this note is what? F. You can see the F right here. This is our F note. Excellent. And now we're here on the musical staff, the first line. What is that note? Okay, give you a few minutes. You should know that it is a line note. I have some notes here to help you reference. And it is note G. Good. Okay. And you know, I had a student earlier say to me, as the notes are going up, it's important that you know that they get higher, okay? And as the notes go down, they're going to get what? Lower, okay? I know that may seem obvious, but this is a beginner's course and we don't take anything for granted. We don't assume that you know anything. We just want to make sure we cover all the steps. Okay, so now this note is on the second space, okay, because you know there's no line going through the note, so it's a space note. That's what you have to do. When you look at first you look at your clef. Okay, now I'm in the bass clef. We've been talking about bass clef. Then you look at your note. Is it a space note? Is it a line note? Once you're able to distinguish that this is a space note, and where is the space note sitting? It's sitting on the second line. So it must be C. C like my first name, Christine. Good. Okay, here we go. We have a ledger line, okay? You already know the first line is note A. And then you continue going up. And so what do you think as we go up? I don't want to give the answer away. Okay, we have middle C. And so it's not C. Okay, the note after C, middle C, is a space note. This is note D. Okay, and that's okay if you get it incorrect. We have resources to support you. Okay, there are resources here to support you so that you can get better with your note reading. It takes time, so have some patience with yourself. Here are the resources. I'll be showing them to you on and throughout the live stream. Okay, let's see if we can do a few more. Okay, here we go. So we have, I think we had this note here. This is on the what? It's on the fourth space. It is a space note. And so what is the name of this note? It sits on the fourth space. You can look here at your reference notes, A, C, E. So this has to be G, 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 okay? G, okay, here we go. Is it a line note or a space note? We didn't change the clef. So you know you're still in the bass clef. Is it a line note or a space note? It is a line note. Good, 2 for 1. It is a line note. So what would the name of the note be that's sitting on the second line? It is a line note. Okay, and this is practice. This is why we're doing this. Okay, it is a line note. So your job is to now say, okay, what are the line notes? Okay, Miss Christine told me G. She told me about the musical alphabet. She gave me so many helpful resources. So this has to be, oh, note B. B for boy, okay? Good. And I should ask, when you're putting your notes or your answers in, use capital letters, okay? So that it really kind of stands out in the chat. Because when they're lowercase, you can inadvertently see like a B for a D. And, you know, and of course, when you're had a long morning because you've been fighting with tech issues, you know what happens. But yes, let's continue. So we're back at this note, you see? So it's almost like the more you do this, the better you'll be able to start to identify, and you won't even have to use any musical alphabet. You can just automatically see, oh yeah, we had this. She told me about the middle C, and the next note must be, do you remember? D. D. Good. Okay. And oh, we had this one before, right? And so you should start to realize, okay, the fifth line, that was note A in the bass clef. Yes, note A. We'll do a few more. Okay. Oh, it's on the fourth line. Miss Christine told me about how this fourth line splits the two dots and the bass clef has two names. So that has to be, let me see if I have, let's see if my drum roll actually works. Where's it? First of all, I have to find it. Oh, okay. And you'll let me know if you heard that. Okay, that's note F. Okay, good. Oh, here we go. See how the more we do this, the better you're going to get. You're going to start to find the speed. It's on the first line. Okay, it's a line note. Okay, and I'm in the bass clef. That must be note what? Drum roll. Must be note G. Look at that. Oh, we had this. Okay, you did hear that. Okay, so we have some audio. I don't know what's going on with the other files. All right, it's on the second line. It's a line note. I remember. Now, here we go. If the first line is G, the first space is A, what note comes or letter comes after A? And drum roll. Okay, it has to be B. Okay, has to be B. Okay, so you see how this is starting to hopefully get a little bit easier. And if you're watching the replay and you're scratching your head and you're saying, I'm still confused, email me, okay? Or rewatch the replay, okay? Watch the lesson again. I put the timestamps so that you can skip around and learn this, okay? Just watching the video is not going to help you. You have to do it, okay? So that means downloading the worksheet. It doesn't cost you anything. If you have a printer, I encourage you to go ahead and print the resources out and go old school with a pen and a paper, pencil, okay? Not a pen, preferably a pencil with an eraser. So if you make an error, you can erase your answers and you will see it's like math, okay? The more you do it, the better it's going to come. Faster, you'll start to be able to read these notes, okay? But you're doing great. So this is a what? Is it a line note or a space note? It is a space note. And so now you have to think, okay, well, the first line is G. The second space, the first space is A. The second line is B. The second space is C. Okay, C. Okay, have to really practice it because it can be tricky. Yes, this can be very, very tricky. I agree. And the more you do it, the better you will get at answering these questions and identifying these lines and space notes in the bass clef, whether above or below, okay? Ledger lines above. Next week, we're going to talk about the ledger lines below the bass clef staff. Okay, we'll do a few more. So the first question I would ask myself if I were you is this a line note or a space note? And that's pretty easy. You don't need a whole lot of time to figure out if the note is a line note or a space note because you can literally see that the line is going through the note. And then once you know that it's a line note, you have a couple of options. You can remember good boys do fine always, good burritos don't fall apart, or or you can go to your musical alphabet. Everyone learns differently, okay? And there's no right or wrong way here as to how you learn, okay? We are all uniquely special, okay? We have our own way of doing things. There's nothing wrong with that as long as we come up with the right answer collectively. So what would this note be? It's sitting on the third line, okay? And so if you know your musical alphabet, you should be able to figure this out. You know that this is line F, and then we're going to go backwards. So what would the space note B here, and the third space would be E. And now we're going down to the next line note, which is the third line. So what note comes before E? It would be D. Okay, you can do it that way. Or you can remember the sentences, okay, as we mentioned. Now, the question is this a space note or a line note? You can figure that out in seconds. It's a space note. How do you know it's a space note? Well, Miss Christine, there is no line going through the note. It is sitting between the two lines. It's sitting in the space, right? So this clearly is a space note. Okay, so you have some choices. We can talk about the musical alphabet, or you can remember that all cows eat grass, or you can just know that the third space is note what? Note E. Okay, you have all of these resources. I was hoping for a ledger line. Great. Okay, all of this is important. Even though we're talking about the ledger lines above the bass clef staff, it is just as important that you know the lines and spaces on the bass clef staff, not just above using ledger lines. So this is all important. If you need a refresher, Mobile Music who said it's tricky, I encourage you to replay, watch the lesson number 3 for bass clef lines and spaces, okay? All right, so here we go. We have 2 ledger lines. You have a ledger line here and a ledger line here. The first question, it doesn't change. Is it a line note or a space note? Oh, you said, oh no, this is tough. It's getting tough, but it's nothing that you can't do, okay? You got to put your mind to it and say, I can do it. That's why I ask every time, are you ready to learn? Okay? So this is great. It is a little bit challenging, but it's not something that you can't master. You can do this. I believe in all of you. The ones that are not even here and watching the replay, I believe in all of you. You have the ability. Okay, so now the question is, what is this note? It is above the bass clef staff. It is above the bass clef staff, and it has 2 ledger lines. So let's think about this. Well, here, okay, the answers are coming in so quickly. So here we have our 5th line, which we know is A. You can just kind of walk it up. There's some hacks too that I'll show and tell you about, but I don't want to go into tricks if you don't know the foundation. It's nothing worse than knowing how to add and subtract and having like workarounds, like quick, and then you really can't figure it out when you start to get to advanced math. So I believe in getting the foundation as solid as possible. Okay, so you should already know, well, we know about middle C. That was very important. You can always kind of have that as your anchor notes. There's always these anchor notes that can help you find your way around the staff. So if we know middle C, and next week I'm going to be able to write on my screen so that I can dictate what I'm saying, but I'm afraid that something might crash if I do it. So I better not open anything. Okay, so we know middle C, right? And we know note D. We've been getting note D. So what would this note have to be? It's the note that comes right after note D. That would be E. E for excellence is what we want out of everyone. E for excellence. Okay, we're going to do this one and one more question, and then we're going to say our goodbyes. All right. I'm not going to say too much. I'm going to give a drum roll. And you should know that it's on the space of the it's a space note, and it's sitting on the second space, and it is note, yeah, like my first initial, C-E. Yes. Okay. Last one. Oh, how appropriate. Okay. We've been talking about this note, how it sits between the treble clef staff and the bass clef staff, and it is very important. 2 for 1. You should tell me not just C, because we have a lot of C's. Look, this is a note C. You can see here, if I put a note here, this would be note C, right? So you have to distinguish what C is this? What C is it? It is C, but what kind of C is it? It is middle C, okay? Middle C, okay? Excellent, excellent work. All right, any questions? Any questions for me? Here's middle C, okay? And you see here on my staff, my grand staff, because you know about the grand staff, it is sitting in the middle, okay? Any questions? Any questions for me? Okay, I'll put here questions. Give you a few seconds. And while I'm here, I might as well ask you to help me out. You know, it seems like every time I say go live, something that used to work does not work. I don't know what that is about. But let's see. Can you hear my absolutely correct?
You're absolutely correct.
Okay. Okay, so there's a question coming in. So let's see if we can answer some questions. All right, good, good, good. Give me 1 second. Okay. All right. The music cuts out. Yes, there seems to be an issue here. And if you're anything like me, you know, you really want to get to the bottom of things because it kind of, you know, it stays on your mind. But let's continue with our learning here in the music room, live in the music room. So question here is the resources have practice material? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. The resources have practice material. Is that mobile music? So let me see if I can take you to an example so that you can see some of these resources here, okay? Give me a second. We're doing this live. That's why they say it's live. Don't know how much you're going to see. I may have to, so for example, let's go here. I might have to enlarge. So you can click on start learning. I know you can't really see well. Hold on. Let's see if we can let's do this in real time, as they say. Let's see. Bring that over. So maybe you can see a little bit better. All right. That's as good as I think I can do it. Okay, so you have some learning collections here. Music theory basics is what we're working on. We're going to be doing some singing exercises, techniques, and they will live here in the singing essentials. And then we're going to do some basic things for piano essentials. So you would, if you don't click on the start learning button here and you scroll down, you would click here on music theory basics and you will see the lesson packages. So we were talking about bass clef, and we're adding as we go along. So if you don't see something right away, we're constantly updating, okay? We're a very small school, which kind of lets me bring in this little plug, like and subscribe, okay? But here is where you will learn to get the practice resources. And I even put the link right here that supports the lesson, okay? So in the resources here, in this particular lesson package, I gave you a booklet which summarizes some of the things that we talk about in the video lesson. But here is the workbook, okay? And so if you remember from our lesson number 3, dealing with the bass clef, you should already know how to put a note on the 4th space, a 3rd line, or the 2nd line. So that's why this is all building blocks, okay? Everything builds on itself, okay? So if you know line note from a space note, then when we come here to the worksheets, then it comes a lot easier, becomes a much easier to answer the questions. But these are the practice resources that's here for you. And then once you get really good with the workbook or the worksheet, depending on the lesson package that we put together, then you can take the quiz, okay? And the quiz, you answer all the questions, you get points, and then when you get really, when you complete everything, let me just take you there to the channel. You can come here and answer and get the answers.
Real time.
Okay.
So you can follow along and check your answers as we go.
Hopefully you can see
Let's
that.
get started.
Let's see.
Let's start by writing our name.
Whoops, I think it left. But needless to say, that is what we have for you. Okay, it's a great value. I don't believe many people are doing this. So this is something that we feel that is important for your development, that foundation that I talk so often about. So these are all the resources available to you here at the school store. You have the quiz, the workbook, and then you can come and get the answers. Okay, but don't just come to the video and get the answers. That doesn't help anyone. That doesn't help you, more importantly. If you really want progress, do the work in everything you do, not just music. If you want progress, do the work. Okay? Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay. Well, I'm enjoying my time with you today. I don't think there's too many other new things. I don't have any new announcements to make. But just as a review, dealing with some of these notes that we talked about in today's lesson, you already know about note G because that was in lesson 3, and note A, 5th line, from lesson 3. Okay, you know these two notes. And then you didn't know about note B, which is sitting right here on the 5th line. And then these are the 3 ledger line notes that we talked about in the bass clef staff. Okay, so we have covered so much. And of course, as I've mentioned, I am so proud of all of you. I'm getting a lot of positive responses. People are liking, so thank you. That keeps me motivated. And comment, like, comment, subscribe, okay, so that we can continue to build this community. It's small, but that's how you start. You start small and you grow. All right, last call for questions. Okay. All right. Well, I had a wonderful time with you. Let me put the resources back up. Okay. So it's store.contemporaryschoolofthearts.com, or you can scan the QR code and it'll take you right there. Next week, we're going to talk about the bass clef, but we're going below. We're going to talk about the bass clef, but we're going to talk about ledger lines going below the staff. Okay, so notes like this, notes like this. I won't talk about them today if you can see it, but we're going low. Okay, and when I say low, that means that the sound, the pitch, we'll talk about these music terms, but we don't want to get ahead of ourselves because it can get confusing. All right, wonderful job. Thank you so very much. Thank you for your patience today. Thank you for coming in to the music room. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. And I appreciate all of you. Until then, I always say keep music in your heart, okay? We need a lot of love all around the world. Okay, have a wonderful Saturday, and I'll see you in the next lesson.